What happens when someone grows up believing the law is optional and then runs straight into a moment where it isn't? She walked into my courtroom like this was all beneath her, like consequences were for other people. Like her last name could erase everything that had already been seen, recorded, and shared across an entire city. She didn't even look at the man she had put in the hospital. Instead, she looked at him calm, confident, and said, "My father owns this state. You'll be out of a job by Monday." The room didn't react. It froze. What she didn't know, what no one in that courtroom realized yet, was that her father was already there, sitting quietly in the back row. No security, no cameras, no power on display, just watching everything he had built over 30 years begin to collapse in less than a minute. And before this day was over, he was going to make a decision that would either save his daughter or save his name. And he wasn't going to be able to do both. If you believe no one should be above the law, no matter who they are, stay with me. Because this isn't just a courtroom story. This is about what happens when power meets consequence and loses. It started 3 days earlier. A state trooper, 20 years on the force, decorated, respected, clocked a white Porsche going 97 in a 55 zone. Routine stop. Lights on. Pull over. Simple. Except it wasn't. The car slowed down, too slowly. By the time the officer approached, the door flew open before he even spoke. She stepped out immediately. No hesitation. No fear. Just attitude. Finger in his face. Voice raised. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." He stayed calm. Asked her to return to the vehicle. That's when she shoved him. Not a nudge. Not an accident. Both hands. Full force. His shoulder slammed into the patrol car. You could hear it before he even hit the ground. And then she got back into her car and drove away. Left him there. On the road. Injured. What she didn't realize, someone above the highway had recorded everything, and the patrol car's camera caught the rest. Every word. Every second. That video hit the internet that same night. By morning, it was everywhere. People didn't need context. They saw it. The calm officer. The escalation. The shove. And that one sentence that spread faster than anything else. "My father owns this state." The city reacted instantly. Officers stood behind their own. Veterans spoke up. Public pressure exploded. This wasn't going away. Charges were filed within 72 hours. And by the time the case reached my courtroom, the entire city was watching. That morning, the room was packed. Press. Officers in uniform. Citizens lined up before sunrise. You could feel it in the air. This wasn't just another case. Then she walked in. Perfectly dressed. Calm. Composed. Like she was attending an event, not facing consequences. She didn't look at the officer. Didn't acknowledge him. Didn't even hesitate walking past the man whose shoulder she had torn apart. Behind her, 3 lawyers. Expensive ones. Confident. Like this would be handled. Like it always had been. I watched all of it. And I already knew this wasn't going the way she thought. When I asked for her plea, her lawyer tried to speak for her. I stopped him. "I'm asking your client." She looked straight at me and said, "Not guilty. This has been completely blown out of proportion." Blown out of proportion. That's when the room changed. I played the footage. All 43 seconds. No commentary. No argument. Just truth. When it ended, I looked at her and asked, "That's what you call barely touching him?" She didn't answer. But she didn't look away either. That told me everything. Her lawyers stepped in smooth, practiced, trying to reshape the story. Context. Pressure. Reputation. And then, carefully, he mentioned her father. Not directly. Just enough to remind everyone who she was. And what that might mean. You could feel it settle across the room. That familiar doubt. That maybe, just maybe, this would end differently for her. So I asked one question. "Is your father here today?" Silence. Then movement. A man stood up in the back row. No title. No spotlight. Just a father in a gray suit. She turned, and for the first time, that confidence cracked. He walked forward slowly. No speech prepared. No politics. Just truth. He said what she did was wrong. Completely. He said he saw the footage and wasn't going to defend it. He apologized directly to the officer, not as a mayor, as a man. And then he looked at me and said, "I'm not here to protect her from this. Whatever this court decides, she will face it." The room broke. Not loud, but heavy, because everyone understood what just happened. He chose integrity, over instinct, over power, over his own daughter. And in that moment, everything changed. I delivered the verdict. Guilty. 60 days in custody. 300 hours of community service with law enforcement support groups. Mandatory counseling. A public apology spoken and recorded. Not for humiliation. For accountability. Then her father spoke again. One final condition. Her access to money cut off. No safety net. No shortcuts. She earns it, he said. Or she doesn't have it. That was the moment she finally broke. Not anger. Not attitude. Reality. Later, as officers approached, she didn't resist. Didn't argue. She just looked at him. Her father. And he told her quietly, "I love you. But I won't stand in the way of this." 6 months later, she walked out different. No cameras waiting. No spotlight. Just someone who had actually changed. She completed every hour. Stayed even after she didn't have to. Listened. Learned. Faced people whose lives revolve around the risks she once dismissed. And slowly, something shifted. She met the officer again. Not in court. Not as an enemy. But as someone who finally understood what she had done. He shook her hand. No bitterness. Just closure. Her apology video reached millions. Not because of her name, but because it was real. Today, she speaks to recruits. Warns them about exactly what unchecked privilege looks like. Because she lived it. And lost to it. I've seen thousands of cases. But this one stays with me. Not because justice was easy. It wasn't. But because when the moment came, someone chose to do the right thing, even when it cost them everything. That's what real accountability looks like. And that's what real love actually is. If this hit you, share it. Because people need to be reminded, power doesn't protect you forever. But truth always shows up.